Welcome, one and all, to episode 52 of Project Geekology. Today, we are going to be talking all about Sam Raimi's 2002 classic, Spider-Man, in all its glory. My name is Dakota, and I'm joined as always with...
Anthony.
And what's cool about 52 is that there are 52 years... Wait.
There are 52 years in life.
And what's cool about the number 52 is that there are 52 weeks in a year. And, if this podcast did its job well, this would have been the celebration of a 1-year anniversary for the podcast, but this is like our 2.5 year or whatever.
Yay, it's our 1 year or 2 years later.
Yeah. So, anyway, 52 episodes. That's pretty cool. It's nuts. Are you wearing a shirt that says Ring Bearer?
I am. I got it at the convention. It's a Hobbit shirt.
Okay. I love that. The term Ring Bearer is just
there
awesome.
and back again.
Never heard that before. Middle Earth Tour 2941. Oh, I actually really like that. It's a timeline joke because, in the Third Age 2941, that's when Bilbo and the boys went to go snatch up that ring from Gollum.
Bilbo and the boys.
Speaking of which, today is March 2nd as we're recording this. And I just found out that in the Lord of the Rings lore, March 2nd is the day that Frodo, Sam, and Gollum basically get through the Dead Marshes. So this is a very special day in Tolkien history. But we're not going to be talking about Tolkien. So
we made it through the Dead Marshes.
We have made it through the Dead Marshes. We
to our
did not follow the lights.
Episode.
Heading straight for that black gate. Okay, so it's been a bit since we recorded last. But I wanted to ask, what have you been up to recently? I know you've had some big stuff going on your end. What have you been doing?
So this past weekend, as of recording, I was at a convention. It was called Pensacon, and I had a really good time. I was out there with a good friend, Miguel. He's a friend of the show. And
shout out to Miguel.
Yes.
Woo-hoo.
Shout out to Miguel. And his wife joined us. And it was pretty cool. It was fun. We'll talk a bit more about that at the beginning or the first part of this podcast episode. And so that was a great time. I've been playing Hogwarts Legacy. I know you have been playing it.
Yeah, I've been playing it. Probably about 45 hours in right now.
What were you sorted into? What house? As far as
Pottermore goes, both me and my wife have always been Gryffindor. Like, no matter how many times we've taken the test, we've always gotten Gryffindor. So instead of you can choose to sync your account up with your Pottermore account.
I thought that was really cool.
That is an option. We decided to just answer the questions that they asked us in the beginning of the game, and you kind of know which one is going to be which house. So we chose Gryffindor. I don't know if you've seen the memes, but Gryffindor house isn't it. The Slytherins and the Ravenclaws and the Hufflepuffs are partying, and we're just listening to 80s songs.
So I did go with my Pottermore account, which is really cool because it does put you into the house that you were sorted into, but it also allows you to keep that wand or to use that wand. So I kept it as is. I did that. I made some very minor changes to my wand, but I was sorted into Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw? I didn't know you were Ravenclaw.
I am.
That explains so much. Okay, all right. Interesting. And how has your experience been as a Ravenclaw?
It's been fun, man. It's been cool. It's different being in another common room because throughout the movies all you saw was Gryffindor, so I'm chilling in the Ravenclaw common room. It's pretty fun. It's pretty cool.
To go on a bit of a tangent about the movies and even the books a little bit, I wish there was some diversity in what houses we got to see good characters from. We got a couple from Ravenclaw, we got a couple from Hufflepuff. You have Cho Chang from Ravenclaw, you have Luna Lovegood from she's also Ravenclaw. Cedric is Hufflepuff. Anyway, you know what I mean. But we never saw any good characters from Slytherin, and I think that's a mistake in the books. One thing that I really love about Avatar: The Last Airbender is that you can have Slytherin-like characters or villainous characters that have redemption arcs, or that can be seen in a good light, you know? And we never really got to see that in the Harry Potter series. But I'm really liking that this game is open to changing that a bit. You have characters that are much more, you know, they fit their house, but they're not necessarily bad people.
You know,
right?
I thought it was really cool that one guy that you duel with, he's a Slytherin, and instantly when we met him, I was like, oh man, is he gonna be like that one douchey character? But he ended up being like a really cool character, and I thought that was really cool that they did show that there is diversity in personalities within the houses and stuff. Because
houses,
you know,
yeah.
because
you have
sense. Yeah, and you have the some, you know, Ravenclaws that are up to no good, you know, like they, or not that they're bad, but you know, they get into trouble and stuff, like the buddy that when you first learn to fly on a broom, he kind of he's one of your Ravenclaw buddies, and he kind of takes you on like the scenic route, and he's like, hey, you know, like it helps you become a better flyer, but you get in trouble for it.
How far are you into the game?
I am about 30 hours in.
Okay. Have you gotten to like the fall setting yet?
I think that I think we just got there.
Where like the leaves turn into, you know, like fall and autumn leaves. It's the game is beautiful. First and foremost, I just want to say that like it's such a refreshing open world game that like doesn't require you to like walk for hours to get wherever you need to go, but you can if you want to, and that's pretty cool. But I also want to just throw out there that this is probably the most fun in a game that I've had since Elder Scrolls Oblivion, which was, you know, what, 15 years ago, 16. Like,
you gotta try Witcher 3.
I've played it plenty, and I can't get into it for whatever reason. I've put a bunch of hours into that game. I can't get into it the same as... This is the first time I felt that, like, I got to explore every nook and cranny of this world since Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and I haven't had that much fun since, up until this game.
Well, I remember having a really good time in the Harry Potter licensed games, or the licensed Harry Potter games, and so this was pretty much the Hogwarts game that we wanted, you know, growing up. It's open world. You get to make your own character. You're not following a storyline that's already been, you know, told. You're not stuck within the storyline of the Harry Potter books. It's a new world. I also was reading that there's a TV show tie-in in the works with HBO, so that should be interesting.
I heard about that. I didn't look into it to see if it was actually happening, but that would be really interesting the way they handle that. But maybe we could talk about Hogwarts Legacy a little bit more at a later date.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there's just so much to talk about with that.
Right.
And I think it's so impressive, and like the fact that it's like the most played single player game, or like most bought single player game in so many years is insane. I've
also been watching a good bit of One Piece. I'm also caught up on My Hero Academia. Like the current season's absolutely insane.
Yeah?
Are you caught up on the manga? I know you read the manga.
No, I didn't. I'm looking at my mangas now. I'm only about 10 volumes in, which is still very early on. I think it's like the beginning of the second season, if that.
Okay. Yeah, this current season 6, is insane. It's absolutely amazing. This is like the season of all seasons. Like, it's just a lot of these seasons, they either start strong or end strong, but this one has just been completely strong from start to up until where it's at now. So I'm pretty excited with that. But yeah, it's been a lot of Hogwarts Legacy, anime, obviously, you know, always throwing some Overwatch in there, and yeah, man, like it's been good. How about you? Like you've been doing you've been making a lot of videos, you've been knocking those out. Have you had any trips or anything that you've gone on?
I went down to Florida recently. You were there.
Right.
Yes, I visited you. But that was about it in terms of trips. You know, it was a brief trip. My great-grandfather died, so we had to attend the funeral for that. But regardless, we had a good time with family, so that was nice.
Right.
Got to catch up with you for a bit.
Yeah, that was good.
Other than that, yeah, so I have been putting out a bunch of videos. I had like a whole like trilogy of like Avatar videos that I released. One was for like the complete Avatar timeline, specifically like the blue people, not the airbenders. You gotta make the caveat. Yeah. So I did a whole timeline on like the history of that world. Then I did like 5 things you missed that you'll only catch if you see the movie again, because I saw it a bunch of times. And then I did another timeline, but specifically like what happens between the first and second film, because there's like a lot that happens, like even in the comics. So I just kind of narrowed down and expanded that area of time, which has been it was good, and the videos are doing well. So that's been nice. A lot of new viewers on the channel. And right now I'm going back to like MCU content, and I'm working on a Wakanda Forever timeline breakdown, because I'm pretty sure I know where it takes place. And by the time this podcast goes out, that video should also be out. So you can go after this, check that video out.
Awesome. Yeah, your YouTube will be in the show notes, so y'all need to go check that out.
Check it out. What else? Oh, also, I broke my rule about not playing gacha games. I ended up downloading another gacha game. This one's called Avatar Generations, and it's not the blue people, it's the airbenders this time. And
how's that?
Basically, it's rough. It's a rough start for a gacha game, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I like being sucked into gachas. I like the aspects of them where you can keep collecting new characters, you can keep upgrading them, and just grow your roster of people to fight and train with. But this game is like so blatantly a ripoff when it comes to like what, like if you do put actual money in, you're only putting money into the chance of getting something good. It's literally gambling, and it's like, I hate stuff like that. Not that I'm going to put money into it, but like, the chances of you getting something good just as a free-to-play player are just as good as if you're a non-free-to-play player. I could throw $50 in, and a person that is like free-to-play might roll the exact same thing that I just rolled. It makes no sense. The value that you're getting, it's not comparable to like what they're trying to sell. It's just a weird thing. I'm probably gonna like do a more deep review of it, like on Geekritique.com at some point soon, just because I have a lot of thoughts, but I don't want to bore the people of this podcast. Well, while you guys are still here, Anthony went to a convention called Pensacon, and it's not at the Pentagon, it's at Pensacola, Florida. You didn't go over to the Pentagon, did you?
I did not.
Okay.
It was in Pensacola, Florida.
I'm sure I'm not the first person to make that joke about Pensacon. Anyway, so tell us about it. How is this different than other places that you've been to? I know that you got a press pass for the podcast.
Thank you to the kind folk overseeing Pensacon. It was really interesting. It was in this like arena. It was like in a stadium, like a hockey rink. But like there's no ice, you know? I've never been to a convention that has been like that. It was weird. Like there was like stadium seating, so like you could kind of like chill if you wanted to. Like they actually had, so you, like in a way it was kind of convenient. Like if you wanted to sit down for a while, you could actually like go up and sit in the seats.
You can go find a seat. Okay.
Right. But I will say that with that, there was limited space since it was not in a convention center. There was limited space. The vendor floor was limited, and where the celebrities were at were in like different levels of the arena. Like you kind of had to walk out from the vendor floor. I'm so used to everything being on like the same place, except for maybe panels and stuff being in other rooms at a convention center.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Now, was this a bigger convention, or was this a smaller one, or like how many days did you actually spend there?
So I was there for 3 days. It was on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the end of February. And so I went every single one of those days. I spent a good bit of time. I will say that I was impressed with the vendors that were there. I actually felt like I wasn't paying more. Like, you know how a lot of people upsell in conventions? Well, a lot of these people wanted to give you good deals. I got both of the Overwatch comic books and the hardcovers. Now, you could easily sell those for full price or close to full price, even if they weren't sealed. And the ones that I got were in like great condition, and I only got them for $8 a piece. I got this like sealed, and mind you, these are hardcovers. All the hardcover comics that I got this like X-Men one. I don't remember everything that I had gotten, but normally it was like $36. I mean, it was probably like a little bit older, but it was sealed still. So they still could have probably have gotten at least like, maybe knock off $10. I got that for like $12.
That's awesome. That's a good thing.
Yeah, dude. Some comics were like $2. Like it was just, you don't have to, stay up to date if you don't want to. If you wanted to, pick up some cool looking comics, I mean, dude, like $2, $4, $6, $8. So that was really cool. I got this really cool sake set it was a Firefly.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was a Firefly sake set, which is like, we need to cover that one day.
It's only like, 14 episodes? Let's do it.
Right, and a movie. And so, yeah, I also got this shirt right here. I absolutely love it. On the back, there we go. On the back, it shows like all the stops that they made. Like the Green Dragon Inn and like the Troll Camp, and it like literally goes through every stop they made.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
That's
like
cool.
a band tour. So,
all right, I like that.
Oh my gosh.
So how were the panels? Like, how did they do with the panels?
So the panels were like in like separate rooms. Like you had to kind of go and find them. It was a little confusing at some points, but once you kind of figure out some of the panel areas, then you could find them. I would say unless you're VIP, getting on the vendor floor was a little like troublesome, because you had to like go upstairs to like the main area that you can like walk down into the seats, and like you had to like, they had this line that was like looping through the seats like a couple times until you actually got to the vendor floor. But then if you're a VIP, you could just weird. Like go through on the ground floor, and it was just like an easy walk in. So
hold on, do you got pictures of this? Do you have pictures of like the layout of anything? Because I would love to see how this looks. I'm having such a hard time picturing people in like stadiums like with booths.
It says, well, so like the vendor stuff was like on the main floor, like where the ice would be, and then they had and then like up on like the next level there were some like artists that were out there and stuff. Yeah, it was like a really just interesting layout, and I could tell that the convention is outgrowing its venue. It's been around for 10 years, so I mean it has some staying power. But yeah, it is starting to, or it might have even been a couple of years that it's been outgrowing its venue. But they also had some stuff going on the outside. They had like food trucks and music going. So something that I liked, and it's something that I kind of noticed about the environment or just the atmosphere of Pensacola itself, is that Pensacon also incorporated parts of the community within the convention. Like there were bars and breweries that had themes that were connected to Pensacon. Like one was themed after Star Wars, the other one was themed after D&D, another was Harry Potter, another was Game of Thrones, and it was really, really cool. So I got to check out the D&D one. That was like really, really like awesome. They had like D&D themed drinks. Same thing with the Star Wars one. There was Star Wars themed drinks. It was really cool that they had that stuff incorporated, and they had like a trolley. There was like a Pensacon trolley that brought you to these different stops that had things going on that were connected to the convention. So I thought it was really cool. Like I'd never really experienced a convention like that, except for maybe NYCC. They had other stuff outside of the Javits Center, but it was kind of like their own stuff. It was associated with NYCC, but they kind of still had their own agenda. It was just like, one was like a Johnny Walker event, the other was, the Verve event. Oh,
right.
But this one, it was like, it was Pensacon. It was all connected to Pensacon, and it was all just, it incorporated the community to it. So I thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And just like, man, let me tell you, just Pensacola is just a beautiful area. Even if the con isn't like a major event, there's other aspects that you can enjoy along with like like going to the con. You could go up there, spend a few days going to the convention, but there's also like you can go to the beach, dude. Going to the beach in Pensacola, like they had parking, and the parking was free. That's unheard of down here in Miami. You got to pay like $20 just to park 3 blocks away from the beach, and the beach sucks
like
down
2
here.
hours.
You know, yeah, dude, like
2 hours, and
you know, yeah, and like honestly, let's be real, the beach in Miami Beach isn't really all that good, but the beach in Pensacola was beautiful. It just it didn't feel like awesome, it felt like I was in Florida, but it also didn't feel like I was in Florida. So that was like really just a plus of going to that convention, and I'm actually interested in going back again. I would just like to see them. Maybe that's like the best choice that they have, but hopefully eventually Pensacon maybe builds something that's a little bit bigger that can hold that kind of convention, but maybe there needs to be more than just that for them to be able to justify building a convention center, you know?
For sure. Yeah, no, they need to have other stuff going on. They need to figure out other ways to expand if they want to continue going. That's interesting, though. I'm glad you had a good time.
Absolutely. Oh, you know what I picked up? And I know it's old by now, like, but I don't care. Like, it was something that I had always wanted but never got. Was, remember that old World of Warcraft atlas that you used to have? Or you still have,
World of
if
Warcraft
you do?
Atlas.
Remember, you had a World of Warcraft atlas from years ago.
It was just like the Eastern Kingdom.
I think it was I think it was like vanilla WoW. But you had an atlas like many years ago. Well, there was a booth there that was selling one, and I got it for like $15. I was like, you know what? I've always kind of wanted this. I'm pretty sure they have like an updated version of it that, you know, I'll get eventually. But like the nostalgia of it, I was like, dude, I remember Dakota having this. I've always wanted one, and I finally have it.
You know what? It might have been
like
Wrath of the Lich King, because I remember I had a mouse pad that was, you know, the picture of the 3 continents, you know, the 2 classic WoW continents, and then Northrend up on the top. So that may be what you're talking about, because I don't think I had an atlas of World of Warcraft.
Well, dude, I remember you having an atlas, dude. That's how I remember it. But yeah, dude, I was just like, oh my god.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, no, it was overall it was a good time. Believe it or not, parking wasn't all that bad. I was surprised that we were able to get some pretty decent parking. That's always been like one of the worst things about conventions is like parking and figuring out parking, and, you know, worrying about having to park in the dang boondocks. You know, have to walk 30 minutes just to get to the convention center. No, it was just like a 5 to 10 minute walk, you know? It wasn't all that bad.
Yeah.
So it was good overall.
When it comes to I was gonna say, when it comes to like New York Comic Con, that's also one of the worst things. It's just like figuring out where you're gonna put your car, and then having to take the train into the city, or sometimes you want to drive into the city, but it's going to be way more expensive that way, and just, you know, you have to deal with like a garage or whatever. But yeah, so it's always a hassle to get into one of these cons.
Exactly. But overall, I would say that I would give Pensacon two thumbs up. It was a smaller convention, but it really had this nice, just homely feeling to it. You know, it was just. And dude, I always have a blast going to conventions. I always go, and I love checking out new conventions. This was my first year going there, and, you know, I'm hoping that maybe I can go back next year. We were luckily able to stay at Miguel's wife's family member's house up there, so we were fortunate enough to not really have to like pay for housing up there, so, or a hotel. So it was good. Like, the overall experience was really good. It was nice having somebody from the area to also show us more of what was going on, and it was good, man.
Cool.
Maybe sometime y'all can make it down here. Check out Pensacola. Let me tell you, Pensacola is worth it. Like, I had never been there before, and I really enjoyed it, man. I really enjoyed it. Pensacola was a beautiful area.
Awesome, bro. That sounds fun. Maybe we'll do that next year or the year after. But we have reached the halfway point of our podcast, and I think we need to start talking about the main event.
Absolutely. The main event, we are starting a series on the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and yeah, we're going to be talking about the first one in this episode.
We'll be back after a quick break.
I hate talking.
Do you love talking about any topic and are never frustrated during conversations? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if there are topics that you avoid, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know the definition of every word others use? I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you are curious about the definition and historical usage of words, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know about current events and other random topics? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you enjoy conversations on a variety of topics, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Listen to I Hate Talking wherever you get your podcasts.
Episodes drop every Thursday. Listen, like, and follow I Hate Talking today.
Not just this episode, this podcast going forward is all about Spider-Man for the foreseeable future. So I hope you strap in, get your web slingers, attached, and start swinging away.
Was it the foreseeable future, as in being in another 2 episodes after this one?
Yeah, I know. No. This is all we're going to talk about for the remainder of the lifetime of the podcast is just Spider-Man.
Yes, we are changing ourselves to Project Spider-Verse.
Oh man, I'm actually really looking forward to the Spider-Verse sequels.
Oh man, so dude, I cannot wait. And we gotta cover that first one. That was such a good one.
Yeah, that'd be. After the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, we're going to the Spider-Verse.
We're gonna be Spider-Man out. But yeah, man, dude, Sam Raimi, he really brought Spider-Man to the big screen in a proper way. I would say he did a great job in this first one. I love it. I know that we have the nostalgia, but I do believe that Tobey Maguire did great for especially for the time, I mean, we had the X-Men movies and then that movie, around the same time, man. We were living the dream back then.
Yeah. So X-Men, when that came out, as kids, it wasn't as popular as Spider-Man turned out to be. But I think Spider-Man is just a much more marketable character in general. But that first X-Men film was kind of, at least for our childhood experience, a sleeper hit. Everyone knew about it, but it wasn't highly talked about. We were in elementary school at the time. But I remember something changed. Just there was a difference going to school the next day after seeing Spider-Man, where everybody was talking about it, and just the world felt different after that movie for some reason. I think it ushered in a new era of superhero filmmaking, because it brought them to the big screen in such a big budget way that we had never seen before. Even the first X-Men movie was good, but it wasn't as high budget as the first Spider-Man. And man, Sony knocked it out of the park with Spider-Man.
They really did. I had a great time revisiting this movie before recording this podcast. I always love revisiting that trilogy every once in a while. I might not watch it every year, but it's just, dude, I feel like they did the origin of Spider-Man justice. They started watering down that experience with the more Spider-Man movies that came out. We got a little bit of that with Andrew Garfield, and we never got that at all with Tom Holland. He was already Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. He had already existed for maybe a couple years in the first movie. So
in Civil War, he had been Spider-Man for 6 months. So that was his first
appearance. So he
was relatively new on the scene, but yeah, he'd already lost Uncle Ben at that point.
And boy, the emotion from seeing Uncle Ben killed in this first one was just it tugged at your heartstrings.
I know.
It was so sad, and the emotion that Tobey Maguire had put into his performance, he was really good in tapping into his emotions. You could see that he was, he seemed like he was visibly just torn apart within inside.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, man, something about Tobey's performance just brought Peter Parker to life. That scene where he gets bit and then he kind of falls to sleep on the side of his bed, he just passes out and he wakes up just absolutely ripped, is so funny to me.
And you know
I feel it would hurt. I feel like it would hurt waking up like that.
And you know what? I absolutely loved that they did something like that, because it makes sense that if you're going through such a drastic change like that you would feel sick, you would pass out. Like, I mean, he essentially passed out, and his body went through all that change. And for the most part, you could tell that he had a bit of a tumultuous night, you know, like, because his body was going through all that change. And it was not just that, he had all these, you know, just kind of these abilities forming, and his senses were heightening. And they did a really good job in the early days of Peter Parker becoming Spider-Man, like how awkward it was. I loved that montage that he had of like trying to like figure out how to get the web out, like, because obviously it makes sense that he wouldn't know how to do it right away. You know, have you ever done something by accident, you're like, okay, wait, how did I do that again? And you try to recreate doing it. That it makes sense. Like it was like a realistic thing. But yeah, I love that moment when he first did it. He had he had like a fork like stuck to his like wrist. He's like, what the heck is this? And it hits the tray, and he like yanks it back and hits a Flash behind him. And I will say that in this film, this was the best version of Flash.
I think it's definitely the most
comic booky
accurate in terms of I like the way that they interpreted Flash in this movie. I like MCU Flash, but he should just be a different character, you know. Like I like the character that they chose. I forget the actor's name.
Right, I do. So I like his personality, and I want him to stay within the MCU. It like, he's just too hilarious, especially when he was like trying to ride on the coattails of Tom Holland's success. Like Spider-Man, like, oh, you know, my friend, you know, he was hilarious. I really love that like corny line that he drops when Peter Parker or Tobey Maguire's like, I don't want to fight you, Flash, and he's like, I wouldn't want to fight me neither. Dude, they made a meme about that, and it had me dying. Did you see that meme? Like, it was just like a bunch of people that's like I don't want to fight you, and then he's like, and they like put like, you know, just whoever it is that they're like trying to like make seem intimidating, like, oh, I wouldn't want to fight me neither, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's funny.
And that fight is so fun too, because that's when we're starting to like understand the reach of his powers. You know, he has this new sense where he can kind of like tell what's going to happen moments before they happen. We learn it's the Spidey sense, obviously.
Yes, and I love
just seeing him in like slow motion. The development of his powers in this movie is so good. And I just want to like take a break just to talk about like how refreshing this movie is when you like go back to it, because there wasn't a huge industry of making superhero films at this time. This was one of the first major big blockbuster superhero movies of like modern film. And you know, the biggest before these were probably the Superman films from like the 70s and 80s. So this had a wide berth creatively. Actually, no, I'm sorry, the Batman movies were the biggest up until this point.
And we can't forget about you could call him like maybe like an anti-hero, Blade.
That first movie especially, probably the first two are just super solid movies. But again, I don't think anybody was looking at that, besides like comic book fans, as anything but an action movie. You know, like this was specifically like, you know, this guy was wearing tights. This is like your classic superhero.
Right. Yeah, but Blade was too badass for people to think that this could have been a comic book movie.
Exactly. Yeah, I think people are surprised when they find out that Blade is a Marvel character.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, when I was younger, when I found that out, I was like, oh my god, really?
Wait, so there are vampires in Spider-Man's universe? So what was I saying? What I love about this is that because there wasn't a big industry of making superhero films at this point, it's totally free from all the tropes that kind of fell into the pot after that. You know, like so many MCU films now, as much as I love them, they kind of they have a formula. Yeah, 100%. They have a formula. They feel the same. A lot of times they look the same because they're trying to give you a certain feel. A lot of times, you know, the shots are blocked a certain way or the colors are changed a certain way. This movie doesn't have any of that baggage. You know, like this can be entirely its own thing, and Sam Raimi knocks it out of the park with just like the cinematography, the way that the story feels. He isn't worried about whether or not the origin story of Spider-Man is like too well known, because at this point it wasn't. You know, it wasn't too well known. This is the first time they're actually doing a Spider-Man for the big screen, you know, in the capacity that they were. And it just feels so good to like watch this and not have the baggage of every other superhero movie before it. Like, wait.
Right, it was free from expectation.
Exactly. It's totally free. And even going back to it, you know, you may have expectations as a viewer, but the film doesn't worry about that because it's already been made, obviously. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it just feels so fresh and different from what we see today.
Yes, it still holds up really well. And that's why I believe that... But there's a reason why we saw Tobey Maguire and even, you know, Andrew Garfield in No Way Home. I mean, people have this connection with those films, and you can still go back and watch them and still have such a great time watching them. And those first two Spider-Man movies back then were just, they're absolutely amazing. I still believe that they're really great. You know, I know that Spider-Man 2 is the more renowned one of the three, but man, Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin in that first one, let me tell you, there's nothing better than watching somebody on the screen absolutely loving what they're doing. And Willem Dafoe, like, he is embodying that character. You know he's having a great time with this character because he's putting his all into it. That performance, like, it was like, dude, this man is so good.
He's got so much energy. He's an older guy. I mean, he wasn't that old when he was doing this, but he's an older guy. Sometimes I watch Spider-Man and like Willem Dafoe's performance, the crazed look that he gets, like, how the heck do you get this much energy out of a man? Like, I could never like put that much energy into performance.
I know, and with No Way Home,
it's just a different personality for me. But yeah, and he was even crazier in No Way Home.
Oh my gosh, like, and I loved that he wanted to do it. He's like, nah, man, I'm doing my stunts. Like, I want to do them.
Good for him.
But yeah, I mean, just this is the origin of that Green Goblin, and you know what? I thought it was a really cool way that they did Green Goblin, instead of the typical comic book version of Green Goblin where he's like an actual like goblin looking individual. They had like a suit. He had this like helmet, and it looked crazy. It looked cool. Yeah, man, that character would not have performed as well if it weren't Willem Dafoe under that mask. Like, maybe they could have found somebody that could have done a good job, but I don't know, man. Like, he just really played that character. He sold it, man. He sold it, that he was like this tortured individual that had two personalities in him and didn't know what the other one was doing at some point, you know?
Yeah, totally. You know, he was something of a scientist himself.
I love that they put that line in No Way Home.
So
people
stupid.
wanted it.
No, you know what line was actually really good. There was a lot of chuckling in the theater at that line. Yes, I was happy about that. But the line that really got me, I think it's probably one of the best written lines in like the MCU, is the callback that Doc Ock makes to Peter. Because in the second movie, what does he say? I forget the freaking callback.
Covering these Sam Raimi films will definitely make the connections back to No Way Home. I agree that there was a lot of really good lines that they brought from these older films.
What's interesting though, and I think this, not necessarily a criticism of this movie, but I don't think that I think we have grown to connect our villains much more personally than this film connected Peter and Norman Osborn, because Norman Osborn's like goal wasn't to like undermine Spider-Man in any way. Spider-Man just kept having to be there, you know? He was just trying to win Oscorp back. So I think that this is an interesting movie in that he doesn't necessarily, like, Spider-Man's just trying to stop him, you know? But he's just like, stop bothering me. Until their final fight, obviously, and then, you know, he gets killed. But
he even like kind of tries to broker peace between them, like, hey, you know, let's join up. But I do, dude, let me tell you, I love that line that he delivers, and like, I just feel like it's something that Green Goblin, when he says that no matter what, in spite of everything you've done for them, they'll eventually hate you.
Yes.
you know.
And I think Christopher Nolan got a little bit of that with you live long enough to see yourself being the enemy, basically.
Oh yeah, he's like you either
Peter.
What Harvey Dent said, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much what Green Goblin is saying here. Not quite as elegantly, but the gist is there, and it's true.
Yeah,
we haven't talked about Harry. We haven't talked about Harry Osborn or Mary Jane Watson at all.
Right. So how do you feel about Kirsten Dunst's performance as MJ and James Franco as Harry? This is my first exposure to James Franco, but I had seen Kirsten Dunst in other stuff when I was younger.
Yeah, I think we were in the same boat there. First and foremost, I love both of their performances. I think James Franco kind of hammed it up a little bit in this movie, but I kind of enjoy that. You know, it's supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be like a Shakespearean drama of good and evil.
Yeah.
And like, you know, friendships betrayed and all that. And that goes on throughout the movies. But I always liked his performance. I always feel for him, you know? Like I totally understand his arc of like going down the dark path after he sees, you know, Spider-Man with his dead father's body.
Yeah.
So, but it's also kind of like, well, obviously your father is dead because he was a bad person, you know, like he was literally in the Green Goblin outfit when Peter dropped him off. So it's kind of like a back and forth thing because like in my head, like logic is telling me like the character's kind of dumb, and like going against Spider-Man for the sake of, you know, just being petty. But I also, you know, it is your father, it is, you know, someone you care for. You go down a dark path and you brood, you know, and that's a reality that a lot of people see in, you know, real life. Not necessarily like Spider-Man killing your family, but you know, bad stuff happening and you kind of dwelling on it, you know, that's something that happens. As far as Mary Jane goes, I always liked Kirsten Dunst's performance. I always found it super believable, you know, like it's such a traumatic story. Like one thing that you have to know about Spider-Man is that like he never gets what he wants. Like, and if he does, there's a caveat. Something has to go horribly wrong for him to get something a little bit right, and then he's gonna lose that, and then everything's gonna be rock bottom for him again, and then rinse and repeat. And that's the entire character arc of Peter Parker in the comics. Like he finds himself a mentor. He eventually finds out that the mentor is turning evil. The mentor either dies or whatever. The girl of his dreams either dies or just moves on past him. It's never a happy ending for Peter Parker, and that's kind of like the whole point, you know? Like we're supposed to feel what are we supposed to feel, Anthony? We're supposed to feel drawn to this character emotionally because everyone's felt disappointment, and there's no character quite as disappointing as Spider-Man.
Right. It's not, I wouldn't say it, I don't, not so much a pity, but more so
it's empathy, you know?
Yeah,
like you feel
exactly.
For this character.
Empathy.
It's not,
exactly.
like you felt disappointed, you felt lost, you felt forgotten or unseen at some point in your life, and that's what Peter Parker is to everyone, you know?
Yeah.
And that's awesome, you know, because they nail that so well in this movie. And in the subsequent movies. I think in the second one they nail it even better.
And he does have that, you know, when he's Spider-Man, that whole little the banter that Spider-Man likes to do, or Peter Parker likes to do as he's Spider-Man. It's so funny because like when he's Peter Parker, it seems like he's like one way, but like when he's Spider-Man, he really just like lets all loose. He's like, hey, you know, what's going on? You know, you're not really supposed to be doing that, right? And it's like, you know, just punching them like, now look at what you made me do, you know, that kind of thing. I do like, and the most interesting thing, he mentions it in No Way Home, is the fact that like he holds back his punches, you know, because if he like punch full force, he'd probably put a hole in people.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Yeah, and even Andrew Garfield at one point was saying that he wasn't pulling back his punches.
After
you know,
a while,
like he got angry. So we know that like this is a very strong character. We see him lift some insane stuff in this movie that's like well beyond the strength of a normal man, and I think that's kind of what makes him super. You know, I think one of my favorite characters in fiction is Superman. You know, like he's trying to live a normal life, and that's ultimately like what we get behind. You know, as viewers, we love to see him shoot lasers out of his eyes and, you know, breathe icy cold breath, but it's not that which draws us to the story. It's the character's plight, and I think Spider-Man is one of those characters that you are always going to feel for his plight, because, you know, as I said, you know, it's a character that constantly feels let down, feels lost, and I love that about this movie. They nail that so well. And yeah, does he get Mary Jane in this one? I forget. Not really. Like, it's kind of
no. I think even with the next one, it's still like very just back and forth.
Yeah, his relationship, and that's again going back to No Way Home. He talks about, like, you know, we kind of got something working, and that's the perfect way to describe it, because it's like not functional. It's not a functional relationship, but like they're kind of like star-crossed lovers, where they will always just kind of be orbiting each other, but never really in the same room.
Oh man, I loved how Tobey Maguire was referred to as a cool youth pastor.
not for nothing, Andrew Garfield is like a very funny actor. You know, like the way he delivers lines is just so good. So I'm excited to eventually get to talking about those as well.
I know,
but you know,
I know that we had kept on going back to No Way Home in this episode, but it's so hard not to with what we have.
I promise next week we will do better to like stick to Spider-Man 2 specifically. We may make some callbacks to other films.
So, you know, even then, like we've for the most part spoken about this film, which is where we get the origin of Spider-Man, and, you know, just how amazingly drawn out it was, the development of the powers, and how he eventually started getting used to it, and how he's, you know, we're getting that early Spider-Man where, you know, he's doing his daily thing, you know, saving people, and the back and forth of, you know, that the hero's plight of people love you, people hate you, people love you, people hate you, you know, that kind of thing. And not getting what you want.
Where did he learn how to sew? Like, dude, where did he learn how to sew that suit?
Like, dude, that suit.
Because it's not just cloth; it's spandex. Like, you need to like know proportions so well.
Dude, let me tell you, if I had the skills to sew like he did, like, dude, he could be a tailor. You know, like he could like make his own just like clothing line. You know, because that suit was so like high quality. You know? And
these are supposed to be high school kids? How they doing that, man? How they doing that?
Oh yeah, just in the beginning, like one quick scene that I absolutely loved was the wrestling scene where he
Crusher.
Yes, and I love that scene. And that's where we get, you know, your boy Bruce Campbell. Sam Raimi just loves throwing his boy in all, like, every movie that he does. He's like in every single movie. That Sam Raimi does, right? Yeah. Like, they are like best friends, man.
They are, yeah. I mean, well, he was in Evil Dead, so.
Right, he was in Evil Dead, and he was in Spider-Man 2, wasn't he? I know he was in 3.
He's in Spider-Man 2 as well, yes.
In different capacities. Well, it's nice seeing this. I think this is where they established the Stan Lee cameos, because I don't remember him being an X-Men. Do you?
He was actually. He was. Yeah, he was on the beach when the Senator Kelly is walking out of the water. He's one of the people staring at him on the beach.
Oh, okay.
He was there. It was a blink and you miss it one.
I need to go back and watch those. But yeah, this one was like a little quick one where he pulls somebody out of the way of like some rubble coming down. But it was nice seeing Stan Lee, and I kind of missed those cameos, to be honest.
Absolutely. I mean, I think let's just say that Stan Lee was probably the most influential single human in terms of pop culture relevance.
Right.
Ever. You know, he made he was involved in the making of so many classic characters that we talk about on a regular basis. Not just on this podcast, but in daily life. You know, the MCU, the biggest movie franchise of all time, would not exist had Stan Lee not created these characters. So kudos to him. He deserves all the love. I love seeing the cameos, and I'll always miss that. I think he died right before Captain Marvel came out, and I think in Captain Marvel the intro is just all of his cameos.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I loved his scene in that movie with him reading the Mallrat skit.
Yes.
Or the script, my bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great to go back to some of these like older superhero movies and seeing his cameos. I'll always got to go back and enjoy. I would say that the X-Men movies and the Spider-Man movies were really like pivotal to see everybody, or how everybody would feel about comic book movies, because like before they were good, but like it had been a while. The technology used on those older films were like it was very outdated, you know, at least, you know, at the time that these movies were made. So we got more CG going on, and it looked great. And I would say that the Spider-Man movies were a great success. To me, the X-Men ones were great because I really liked the X-Men. Especially Wolverine and whatnot, and you know, we'll definitely have to cover those films too. But this first Spider-Man film, absolutely loved it. I have nothing but, you know, fond memories about it, and I always enjoy coming back to it and seeing the performances of all these just amazing, you know, actors and actresses.
Yeah, I totally agree, 100%. Yeah, I'm excited to continue this conversation on our next podcast as we discuss Spider-Man 2, also directed by Sam Raimi, also starring Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, and James Franco.
And Bruce Campbell.
A little bit of Bruce Campbell, a little bit of Willem Dafoe, but a lot of Alfred Molina. So good things are in store for us in the future. Thank you guys so much for listening to us here for our 52nd episode. We hope that you guys check out the show notes, go follow our page, give us a review if you deem us so worthy, and yeah, see you guys next time.
See ya.